afternoon, everyone. You're listening to Kraetzer Media on WVOX AM 1460, heard around the world on WVOX.com. This is Jack McGregor with Ken Kraetzer, bringing you this half-hour discussion of issues related to veterans and the active military. Now, here's Ken.
Hey, thanks, Jack. Good afternoon, everyone listening to Kraetzer Media here on WVOX. Good to be back. Jack, thank you so much for covering the last 2 weeks. Well, 1 week I gave a talk down in New York at the Naval Water on really what we do. About our 12-year history and what you've contributed and accomplished. And then I was up at a bankers convention, the Independent Bankers Association, last week up in Verona, New York. So you gave me a chance to get up there a little bit early by covering it, the show very nicely. Today is Juneteenth, a holiday we're all learning more about. You know, it's new. It's the first time my company is off. But it commemorates the emancipation of enslaved African Americans in Galveston, Texas, at the end of the Civil War on June 19, 1865, when Major General Gordon Granger proclaimed freedom for all the enslaved people in Galveston, Texas. And I will note that Major General Granger was a West Point grad.
There you go.
Gotta keep that West Point connection in it, but such an important moment of American history. And we're going to talk a little bit more about American history with one of our favorite authors today in the second half, George Daughan, D-A-U-G-H-A-N. Has written a number of books on the American Revolution, great book on the Revolution on the Hudson, War, and then continuing the War of 1812. If you need a gift for a student graduating high school or college, a George Daughan book is a perfect gift.
Absolutely.
And Jack, again, thank you. And you got a lot of notes there.
Well, I'll start off with a story that's happening as we speak. This story dealing with the Titanic, that a tourist submersible was diving on the wreck of the Titanic, and now it's gone missing. The ship has lost contact with it. The Titanic is about 900 miles off the coast of Cape Cod in the North Atlantic at a depth of about 13,000 feet. So this is pretty scary with a submersible dealing with the incredible water pressure at those depths. As well as the limited air supply on that sub. So the Coast Guard is getting involved in the rescue mission. And there's a P-8 Poseidon aircraft that's going to be flying over the area with underwater detection capabilities. So hopefully you'll be able to find this sub. Yeah, that's a really scary story. There's been so much good work done in being able to visit the wrecks of not just the Titanic, but a lot of World War II ships and others. But it's scary when one of those submersibles goes missing, because it doesn't sound good. Indeed, we'll definitely keep an eye on that one. Switching gears a little bit to Ukraine, Russia has launched airstrikes across Ukraine. This was last week, hitting the central city of Kyiv in just 2 days after it was rocked by a deadly attack. And the Pentagon is sending a new aid package. It will deliver a new package of military aid to Ukraine. It totals up to $325 million and will include a wide range of rockets, missiles, and other munitions aimed at bolstering the counteroffensive against Russia. The aid will include, for what is considered critical air defense systems, the National Advanced Surface-to-Air Missile System, NASAM, and the High Mobility Air Artillery Rocket Systems. We talked a lot about the high mobility rocket systems on this show, as well as Stingers and Javelin missiles. And more than 24 Bradley and Stryker armored fighting vehicles. And the aid comes as Ukraine has intensified attacks along the 600-mile front line in the beginning of that counteroffensive. And the U.S. has committed nearly $40 billion in weapons and other equipment to Ukraine since Russia invaded Ukraine in February of 2022. And also the new aid delivery will have 22 million rounds of small arms ammunition and grenades and a variety of other rockets and munitions. Also includes spare parts, communications, and demolition equipment and funding for training. So another big package heading over to Ukraine.
Yeah, some progress made by the Ukrainians. They said they've taken over several villages, but it's tough fighting.
Indeed, and the Air Force is deploying F-22 Raptors to the U.S. Central Command's area of responsibility in the Middle East to Central and South Asia as Russia continues to provoke American jets as well as allies and partners in the area. Now, airmen from the 94th Fighter Squadron at Joint Base Langley in Virginia are the latest to arrive in the string of recent deployments to the U.S. Central Command. Air Force top officer in the region said in April that Russian pilots had begun buzzing American fighter jets over Syria in apparent invitations to dogfight. The arrival signals the American military officials are increasingly alarmed by what they see with Russia's attempt to intimidate American airmen and endanger U.S.-led coalition troops on the ground in Syria. Flouting flight safety rules the two countries have agreed upon to avoid accidents and misunderstandings. Now, Russian aircraft violated long-standing deconfliction protocols 85 times from March 1st to April 28th. Air Force Central Command said, and in April, the Air Force released two videos that appeared to show Russian Su-35 fighter jets veering close to American F-16 fighters in coalition airspace over Syria, filmed from the viewpoint of the F-16. So, scary situation there over Syria with these fighter jets, Ken.
Yeah, and if one, crashes into the other, or if one decides to launch a weapon, you got a real problem there. In terms of what retaliation would be, because I don't think either side's ready to apologize for an incident. So that's showing how much tension there is between the U.S. and Russia right now in the proxy war in Syria.
Absolutely, and sticking with that part of the world, the U.S. Navy and its NATO allies and partners wrapped up their annual maritime focus on exercise in the Baltic region. Baltic Operation 2023, or BALTOPS, concludes a week after American and European pilots flew their final sorties for the High North's premier aerial warfare drill, Arctic Challenge 2023. The concurrent exercises, which include U.S. Air Force and Navy personnel, aim to bolster Euro-American defense cooperation. Now, BALTOPS, which features a cohort of 50 ships and 45 aircraft, led by U.S. Naval Forces Europe, Africa, and U.S. Sixth Fleet, kicked off in Estonia June 4th. Over the following 2 weeks, the navies of 20 countries, far more than last year, simulated maritime and amphibious combat scenarios in and around the Baltic Sea. More than 6,000 personnel, including about 1,500 U.S. sailors, Marines, and airmen, took part in the exercises. More than twice as many in 2020, and the destroyer Paul Ignatius and command ship Mount Whitney headlined the U.S. Navy contingent. American forces launched a number of new capabilities during the exercise. Unmanned surface vessels rehearsed personnel rescues and medical transfers. Danish frigate leveraged U.S. logistical capabilities to reload a dummy missile. But a lot going on there in this challenge. And U.S. Air Force and Navy pilots finished their drills for Arctic Challenge, which is the Nordic-run aerial warfare exercises featuring 10 other NATO members on June 9th. So a lot happening up there in the Baltic.
Yeah, Jack, was the aircraft carrier, the brand new one, the Gerald Ford, involved in those exercises? I know it had made a port stop. I believe it was in Finland. I wasn't sure which country, but certainly made its presence known with that port stop.
Yeah, the Gerald Ford was there. Yeah, I believe they were part of this exercise. But yeah, a lot going on there in the Baltic. And switching gears a little bit to Asia, I'll start off with what says Kraetzer with North Korea. North Korea launched two short-range ballistic missiles toward its eastern waters on Thursday, Neighbor said, in a resumption of weapons tests to protest just ended South Korea U.S. live fire drills that viewed as an invasion rehearsal. Now, it launched the first by North Korea since it failed to put up its first spy satellite into orbit. That was a story we talked about recently, that the North Koreans tried to launch a spy satellite, and that ended up being a failure. Rocket just crashed into the sea. But this new missile launch, launched from North Korea's capital region, traveled about 480 miles before landing in waters between the Korean Peninsula and Japan. The South Koreans called it a grave provocation, since South Korea's military will maintain a firm readiness in close coordination with the U.S. Japanese Prime Minister Fumio Kishida said the missiles landed inside Japan's exclusive economic zone, which he called a violent action that threatened international peace and safety. So North Korea launching missiles once again.
It's just such a dangerous activity. One of those missiles is going to land in South Korea or Japan or another occupied area. And, again, it's what retaliation will happen. North Koreans believe that their security is dependent on nuclear weapons, and they're demonstrating the missile capability. They seem to be having some success, but not entirely. There are some questions, some of the write-ups, that they've really mastered long-range missiles, and again, when we talk about on hypersonic planes, the re-entry at high speed, at high temperature, is one of the areas that the analysts believe North Korea is not yet there at, but they're getting close.
And the U.S. deployed the USS Michigan to South Korea after this happened. The USS Michigan is one of the biggest submarines in the world. It's a nuclear-powered submarine. Ohio-class guided missile submarine can be armed with up to 150 Tomahawk missiles with a range of about 1,550 miles and is capable of launching special force missions, according to a statement from the South Koreans. So the U.S. sending some serious firepower there, one of the biggest submarines.
That, as you said, is one of the most important assets of the U.S. Navy is the Ohio-class submarines loaded with Tomahawk missiles, 150.
Mm-hmm.
And they wanted to make sure the North Koreans saw the Michigan in port, knowing it's very close by and is ready to take action if North Korea launches a missile and hits land.
Absolutely. We'll have to keep an eye on that. You're listening to Kraetzer Media on WVOX AM 1460, heard around the world on WVOX.com. We'll be right back after this AP news break, so stay tuned.